Hey everyone, in this video we are going to learn how to draw a t-shirt in Adobe Illustrator. So first we need to start by creating a letter size document. We're going to go up here to the top left button that says New File, and I'm going to click here. And I have this dialog box open. If I click on Print, I can click Letter Size. Now that I have my letter size document, I need to place my Croquis inside this document. A Croquis is like a paper doll. She is the body form that we draw our garments on top of. I'm going to go to File up here in the top menu, and I'm going to click Place. Here I have my Croquis template, and I'm going to place her right on the page. Now the next thing I need to do is I need to embed this Croquis. So I have my image embedded now. I'm going to change the opacity here just so I can see better when I'm drawing on top. So here I have selected my image with my black arrow, and I'm going to this opacity in my control panel here, and I'm pulling down. And I think it's a pretty light drawing already, so I think like 50-ish% is good. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lock this image down. So I'm going to go up to the top menu where it says Object. I'm going to hover over Lock, and I'm going to click Selection. Now you must make sure you have your image selected before you lock it down. Otherwise it won't lock. So now I can begin drawing my t-shirt. The first thing I need to do is I need to set my fill and my stroke. I would like to have a gray fill. So I have my fill up front right here, and I'm going to go to the gray in my swatches panel, and I'm going to go 3 in from the very right. Next, I need to have stroke selected, and I'm going to give that a black stroke. So I'm going to start by turning on my rulers. This will allow me to draw a guideline on my page. So to turn on your rulers, you could go to View, and you can find Rulers here and Show Rulers. Or I like to use Command R or Control R, and that will pull up the rulers that are on the top and side of this artboard. Now if I take my black arrow and I pull out from the side of that ruler, I can place it right here in the center where I see this red line on this Croquis. So next I want to make sure my guide is locked, so I'm going to go to View, and I'm going to go to Guides, and it is locked already because it gives me the option to unlock. So now I can know for sure that I'm ready to start drawing. I am going to click here on the pen tool now. I'm going to start by clicking the high shoulder point on this Croquis, and then I'm going to release, and I'm going to click again at the low shoulder point. Now I need to draw the armhole. Armholes have a slight curve, so I'm going to click down right below the arm, and I'm going to release. I'm going to go add the curve in later. Now I need to just go straight down, so I'm going to hold Shift for a perfectly straight line, and I'm going to click to the hip, and I'm going to keep holding Shift, and I'm going to click at my center guide. And so I've drawn about half of the bodice of this t-shirt. However, I do need to add a curve to this armhole, so I'm going to go hold down here on my pen tool to get to my anchor point tool. I'm going to push in to draw a small curve. Okay, so this is the curve for my armhole. I'm going to click off of this and deselect before I start drawing again. So now I'm going to go back into my pen tool while nothing is selected. If you have this object selected and you start trying to draw the sleeve, you might accidentally delete some points or add some points to this object, so you want to make sure you have everything deselected before you start drawing again. I'm going to draw the sleeve now. I'm going to start at this low shoulder point, and I click and I release, and I'm going to draw basically like a little rectangle. I want to make sure that the hem of the sleeve aligns with the arm down here, so we want to make sure this line and this line is parallel. So I'm going to click there, and then I'm going to go right to where I see my armhole, and because I'm going to place this object behind my bodice piece, I'm just kind of making sure that I cover this edge. So now I'm going to send the sleeve piece behind the bodice. So I'm going to go to Object, Arrange, and Send Backwards. Now once again, make sure you have the object you want to move or arrange selected. Send Backward sends backward one object. Send to Back sends to the very back of the document, which is our croquis, and we don't want to do that right now. So now we have half of our t-shirt drawn, and we need to reflect this side to the other side so that we can combine the bodice together and add the curve to the neckline. So there's a really cool tool that we can use called the Reflect tool. It can be a little bit tricky because we have to remember to use a keyboard command, but I do believe that this is the fast and most perfect way to create the bodice of this t-shirt. So what I'm going to do now is with my black arrow, my selection tool, I'm going to select the bodice piece and this sleeve. Next, I'm going to press O on my keyboard to get the Reflect tool. If you'd like to find it in the toolbar, it's hiding under the Rotate tool, which is R. So Reflect is O, Rotate is R. So I'm in my reflection tool, and now I'm going to hover with these crosshairs over my center axis. So I've got my crosshairs on this guideline that we made, and I'm going to hold down Option or Alt if you're using the PC. I'm holding down this Option Alt button, and I click and I release to get this dialog box. Now if it looks angled, maybe it has angles selected, or if it's flipping the other way, maybe horizontal selected, but we need to make sure that we have vertical selected. And I'm going to click Copy. All right. So what was over here is now copied over there in a perfect mirror. So now I'm going to deselect everything just by clicking off my objects, and I'm going to click back onto the bodice pieces. To select them at the same time, you must hold down Shift on your keyboard. So I'm holding Shift, and now I have both bodice pieces selected. Now we want to close these up together so that they become a closed object. So there's a few places to join. So we can go to Object in the top menu, we can go to Path, and we can click Join. Now that joined the bottom pieces. However, the bottom points, and however, the top points are not joined yet. So we need to do it one more time. This time I'm going to right click, and I'm going to click Join. So now we have this, it's one whole piece. However, you might notice that we don't really have a curved neckline. So we're going to go in once again with our anchor point tool, and we're going to click on this line and just pull down right in the center to get the neckline. Now you could go right there, but if you want a deeper scoop neckline, perhaps you can pull it down a little further. And I'm going to release. So now we need to draw the back inside piece. This is the final piece of the t-shirt that we're going to draw, and then we are going to do detailing. So let me deselect off of my bodice piece. So nothing is selected, and I'm going to go back into my pen tool. Drawing the back inside piece is pretty simple. I'm at this high shoulder point, I click there, and now I click at this next one, and I'm going to click all the way around. So it looks like this. This piece is going to be sent behind the bodice piece, and so you're not going to see all this part. What we need to make sure of is that it is outside of the scoop neckline. Okay, next I'm going to give this a slightly darker gray before I forget, because interior pieces need to have a darker color to indicate that it is the inside of a garment. So I am going to make sure my fill is selected, and I'm going to give it a darker gray. Now I'm going to start sending it backwards. So I can go Object, Arrange, Send Backward, and it has gone behind my bodice piece. The next thing I need to do is give this back neckline a small curve. So I can go to my anchor point tool and just curve it very slightly. Make sure I'm clicking in the center and dragging down. So now I have all four pieces of my t-shirt. I have the bodice, the sleeves, and the back inside piece. Next, we need to do our t-shirt detailing. So let's start simple. Let's start with the hem. So I'm going to draw a straight line with my pen tool. I'm going to click here and I'm holding down Shift to draw a perfectly straight line, and I'm clicking at the end at the other side of this t-shirt, and to release this line I hit return or enter on my keyboard. Now we need to turn this into a stitch line. So to make it dashed, we have to go to our stroke panel. This is over here, or you can find it Window Stroke. So I'm in my strokes panel, and now I'm going to click this little button here called dashed line. And now I have a dash. However, the dash is a little bit big. Let's type in 2 point for the dash and 1 point for the gap. Now that's starting to look like stitch lines. The stitching is a little chunky still, so if we go to our weight here and decrease it to about half of the original weight, which would be 0.5 point, that's starting to look more reasonable. So this is going to be the style that we use for our stitch lines. A 2 point dash, 1 point gap, and a 0.5 point weight. So because these are 2 needle stitches, I am going to duplicate this line. You can do it by a copy paste, so you can go edit, copy, edit, paste, and you simply move it right to where it needs to go. Or you can use my handy dandy shortcut, which is holding down Option and Shift at the same time on your keyboard and clicking on that object and pulling. Holding down Option allows it to be duplicated. Holding Shift keeps it in line with the original line. Okay, so now I have my 2 stitch lines at the hem. I'm going to do this for the sleeve now. I'm going to draw a single line on the sleeve. And because I already have this style in use, it automatically drew it in the stitch lines. However, if it was a solid line, you could use the eyedropper tool and you could eyedropper the style from the stitch lines over there. I'm going to zoom in here just because I think I need to make a little adjustment to make sure it's nice and parallel. You can also use the increments, the little arrows on your keyboard to make small changes. So now I have my stitch line here, and I'm going to use my Option Shift and pull up to make sure I have my double stitching. So you know the distance from the hem needs to be about the same. The distance between these stitch lines is about the same. So I'm ready to copy these stitch lines to the sleeve over here. So I have them selected. I selected them together by holding Shift on my keyboard. I am once again going to use the reflect tool. So I am going to press O on my keyboard, or I'm going to go to the reflect tool in the toolbar. The crosshairs are again activated. Once again, you must have these objects selected before this will work. I put my crosshairs on this center axis and I hold down Option on my keyboard and I click and I release on that line. And of course, I'm going to pick the vertical reflection to mirror this over, and I'm going to click copy. Okay, so that has been copied over to the other sleeve. Now we need to do the inside neckline and the front neckline. To do this, we are going to start by copying the front neckline. So I am going to do this by selecting my white arrow. I am selecting this line right here with my white arrow. So I just clicked on that neckline and I can see that this segment from this point to this point is selected because I have these handlebars activated. I am simply going to copy and paste. This time I'm going to use my keyboard. I'm going to use Command C and Command V to copy. Now, I do not want this to have a fill because I just want it to be a stroke. So I'm going to remove the fill. I might accidentally have a fill on these other strokes, and it looks like I do. So I would want to go back and remove that as well. So I'm going to place this right on top of where it originally was, and I'm going to move it down just a little bit. However, it's not going to the edges, so I'm going to need to stretch this horizontally and vertically to get this to look, oops, undo if you accidentally move something you didn't want to. Don't try to move it back perfectly. So I am kind of just stretching this to get it to fit around my original neckline, and now I have this piece here. Once again, I'm going to use my eyedropper tool, and I'm going to select that, and because it has a fill, I need to remove that fill, and now I have the stitches on the front neckline. Now I'm going to do the same for the back neckline. I'm going to use my white arrow. I'm going to click on that back neckline piece. I am going to copy this segment from here, both the high shoulder points. I'm going to edit, copy, edit, paste, and here we have that neckline piece. I'll go ahead and use my eyedropper tool to eyedropper that style of the dashed stroke, and I'm going to place it just a little bit below the back neckline. However, you can see that it is kind of placed on top of everything. So I need to send this to the back. So I can go arrange, send backward, but that might take a while because we have a lot of different paths on here now. So the most simple way is to cut this. Cutting copies it and kind of puts it to the side so we can paste it later. So I'm going to select this object. I'm going to go to Edit, Cut, and now I'm going to click on that back inside piece, and I'm going to go to Edit, Paste in Front. So because I have this back inside piece selected, the computer knows that that's what I want to paste this stitch line piece in front of. So I click Paste in Front, and now it's behind the bodice and it's on top of the back inside neckline. All right, so let's take a zoom out. This is your t-shirt. These are all the elements you need to submit this project to me.